Yo, welcome to Cherokee Now. Today we have Caleb Hickman with us. Caleb is the Supervisory Fisheries and Wildlife Biologist here with the tribe. Caleb, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking a moment to come on and explain the very good work that you guys are doing behind the scenes with EBCI Natural Resources. Tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Well, we do all kinds of things. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy to be here as a representative of our group. Natural Resources and Fish and Wildlife in particular is what we work with. We work with all manner of game and non-game fish and wildlife. And what that means is any organisms that the tribe would find important in some way, whether economically, like the fishing industry, or subsistence hunting. So some organisms, people are going out and hunting. But even the organisms that provide some service to the tribe culturally or through some sort of sustainable environmental ability to clean the water or the land in some way. So there's a lot of different organisms, from the smallest little lizard or salamander to the elk and bear.
So tell me about your particular position. What do you do?
I'm the supervisory biologist. My job is mainly to help organize and implement some of these projects that we work on, and make sure that our staff has what they need to go out in the field and collect any data and understand whether it's research or inventory or some sort of land management. So I help organize a lot of that work, and I get out in the field myself quite a bit. I'm a field biologist by training. So
I got you. Yeah. So I'd heard recently some stories about the bat project. Tell me a little bit about the bat project. Sounds exciting.
So bats are another group that we work with. A lot of people don't know just how important they are. Whether you think that they're ugly or pretty
terrifying,
or terrifying,
blood-sucking, let's get them all.
Yeah, or get them all. They are important. So one of the main things that we like to tell people is without these animals, you'd be eaten up by insects in seconds.
Right.
Bats consume literally tons of mosquito-sized insects in one night around our area. So without them, we're in trouble. And there is a fungus that's killing them off, we're finding out. And we've been collecting data on these animals for over 15 years now.
Oh, my goodness.
And the animals that are in caves somewhere else will come here in reduced numbers now. We're finding that out. So we're one of the few places in the state that has these long-term data sets where we're able to see the decline, and we're seeing a change in different species numbers. Believe it or not, we have about 12 species here on the koala. This year, even though we've had 15 years of studying these animals, this year we found a new one. It was a Seminole bat, beautiful mahogany color, they call it. We have red bats. We have big brown bats that kind of look like a wolf. So they're beautiful, sometimes terrifying looking maybe, but they're really neat animals, and they provide a service to us. Mosquitoes, of course, can carry diseases.
Absolutely. We have a big problem here, I guess, with the encephalitis and the meningitis and the various diseases that they cause. So you're telling me that bats manage to eat and control some of that.
Yes.
Now, is there a way for the public to take advantage of that? Or
you could put up bat houses. So bats can colonize.
Like bat cave.
Kind of your little bat cave. Well, they're just wooden boxes. And they like these little tiny slits. Often people could get them, in their attic or something. The same reason they like your attic. You could build that in your yard. Some people use the guano for gardens. It's really good, I guess.
Really?
Some people will even buy it, I hear. But it's but you could put these up, and you want to entice them in. The other thing is having a lot of good edges. So there is kind of a misunderstanding that cutting down trees everywhere could really hurt bats. Well, if you cut down the wrong tree, sure, you could hurt them. Right. But they like to fly through open areas, kind of like us or any animal really. They don't want to run into a forest. They want to hunt these bugs where they can see them. And they do use sonar or echolocation to do that. And we're able to use that to census them as well. So we have another technique where we'll use a cool microphone, really expensive microphone, to detect their calls. And we can identify to species what specific bats are there.
So do you have a service, or do you have a way to point folks that are curious about maybe obtaining their own bat house that could help them? I know in some areas, especially up in the Big Cove community, and all the communities for that matter, there are areas where just mosquitoes are terrible and worse,
Yeah.
it seems, than others. Are there ways for those folks to reach out to you, or for you to get to them and say, hey, let's start establishing these bat communities?
You could find us on Facebook.
Okay.
That's where we do a lot of our social networking with people. You could also contact our office. I'll send out a phone number and contact information for us. I'm always happy to talk to people. I drive around everywhere, all over the tribal boundary, so do all of our employees. So look for our vehicles. It says Fisheries and Wildlife on the side. And talk to us. We're always willing to talk to people about what we do. And try to help people out.
I think it's a really neat project, and it's something that a lot of folks aren't aware of, is that the fact that if we can bring the bats in, we can control some of these mosquito populations and assist with that at least. And that's neat. So tell us something else that's going on. Tell me about the amphibian project. What's going on there?
Well, so right now, and a lot of people don't know this, where we live right here is the salamander, which is an amphibian, hot spot of the world. So
never heard that.
Yeah, no, but most
That's
people
amazing.
don't know that. There are more different kinds and more biomass of salamanders here than any place on the planet.
Okay.
There are people that come from as far as Germany just to come here to see the different kinds we have. So lizards, folks call them lizards. And one thing we're doing, we're surveying for them. We want to see what's here. The cool thing about the tribal land base here is a lot of organisms have never even been surveyed. So most states have been surveyed by biologists. We're still kind of early. So our program started around 2007, and we are surveying like crazy different organisms. But amphibians are kind of a new one that we really, until recently, haven't surveyed much for.
Right.
We've found over 20 different species here. And they're in different sizes, different colors. But if you put the biomass, if you just put them on a scale, all of those salamanders on a scale, they would outweigh all of the mammals, that includes elk and bear, all of the reptiles, all of the birds combined, all of the fish.
On the boundary here.
On the boundary, yeah. So if you put them on a scale and compared them, it'd be more biomass. Gotcha. So that's important. If something hit these amphibians, a disease, kind of like I talked about with the bats, it could wipe them out, and it would change our system.
It changes the whole
ecosystem. Our forests would look completely different. And we are worried about a disease hitting from Europe right now. So we're surveying to make sure.
Is there anything that we can do to prevent any of that, or is there?
Yes, definitely. If you get a pet at a pet store, don't release any amphibians, especially if they come from Europe or Asia.
Gotcha.
If you go to a pet store and you buy a pet, don't release them to our environment, because whether you know it or not, they could have this fungus on them that is invasive, and so it came from the other side of the planet. It doesn't belong here. If we release these animals, it could wipe out a lot of our amphibians.
That's terrifying. That's as terrifying as the bats.
Yeah.
So. Wow. Yeah. Okay, what else you got going on here?
Oh, well, we work on some of the large, more charismatic animals too. We have a deer project. We work with bear. We work with elk. A lot of those projects are in collaboration with the state wildlife commission or our neighbors to the north, National Park, Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
So is that working with just the habitat kind of arrangement and making sure that things are protected and in good places?
Yeah, we do a lot of habitat work, what we can. We do what we call managing on a slope here. There's not a lot of flat land.
Literally.
Yeah, right. So we have a lot of trouble with that. One thing we look forward to in the future is maybe implementing more fire management here.
Okay.
It does open up the environment a little bit and provide some habitat for a lot of these organisms. And the elk, one issue here is damage to crops. So a big part of our mission is to make sure that people and animals coexist happily.
Right.
And to do that, we try to work with landowners to figure out a way that they can have crops, and we can also have elk, which are native here. A lot of folks may not know that, but they are native animals. They just weren't here. They were gone around 200 years ago.
Gotcha.
So there's nobody alive today that can tell us how people lived with them.
Right.
So we're trying to add a little bit of science to it. So we're trying to change animals' behavior without, killing them, basically.
Right.
And which could change their behavior once there's a hunt or something. But right now, we don't think that the population is big enough and sustainable enough to implement a hunt.
How many elk would you estimate are in the Cherokee area here?
That's a good question. At any time, we could have as many as 50, 60 animals
Okay.
on the Cherokee lands. Our biggest herd is what we call the Econo-Lufty herd, which we share with the park. They move back and forth. And those are the ones that a lot of people see moving down the river or crossing the roads. And one thing I want to tell people is to be careful, always be aware.
Right.
It doesn't matter where you're driving, especially in the dim parts of the day. That's when they move a lot. And that's when your eyes aren't as adjusted to the road,
Right.
So be careful. We're not used to seeing these large animals walking around.
And they're massive. Some of the bull elk are massive.
Yeah, and they can destroy a vehicle.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned to it before we got on the show about the upcoming flying squirrel project. Is that right?
Yeah. So we work with flying squirrels. There's a species of concern here that we work with, Northern Carolina flying squirrel, and we're one of the few places that they have kind of a stronghold. They really like it here.
Really?
So we put out nest boxes, and so they colonize these nest boxes, and later on they'll have babies there. And but what we do is we go out in the wintertime. There's snow on the ground a lot of times when we do this, and we climb up a flimsy little ladder and put a net over a little hole, and we entice them to come out. We capture them. We put tags on them, and by doing this we can see how many there are, or at least get an idea of if we're getting any recaptures of animals from previous years.
And has this project been going on for a while?
Yeah, for quite a while.
What's the trend we're seeing?
We're not getting that many recaptures, which could mean a few things. Right now, we're trying to find out if it could be changes in species moving different places.
Okay.
So there's another species that could be kind of taking over.
So it could be migrating, or just declining with another species.
Yeah, that's
coming
right.
in.
Yeah, or it could be that they are dying out and they're just being replaced.
Okay.
So we're not seeing long-lived animals. They're not staying there. So.
Okay. So what's one of your favorite projects that you've got going on? I know you've got probably 15 or 20 different projects, and we're going to take the document that we have here that has a lot of the information about the various programs that you have. Everything from coyote and elk and hogs, white-tailed deer. I see turkey and everything's in here. But what is one of your personal favorites?
Well, it's really hard to choose a favorite. My background is with amphibians, and so we're trying to grow a project with the Language Consortium and Myrtle Driver. She's been incredibly busy recently, but I hope if you're listening, Myrtle, we're going to talk soon. There's a project where we worked with a consortium to name all of the salamanders here. And we started just like a biologist would down the taxonomic tree.
Okay.
And we're naming different
That's
things.
awesome.
And the great thing about that, the thing I'm most excited about, and this isn't even really much biology, unless you consider the description part of it is, and it is, it's more descriptive than Latin, which is what we use to name these animals. So as a scientist, you use Latin names. But Cherokee is more descriptive. And I presented this recently at a meeting with people that study these animals, and they loved it. I was really surprised that
that's
it
amazing.
was a big sell. I'm excited about that because I think culture is important. And
Absolutely.
I think language is incredibly important. So this is our way to sort of connect what we do with something so important.
Let's set the bar high here and put Cherokee on the map with some of this research. This is great stuff.
Yeah.
So next time you come on the show, I'd like to have you bring some of these animals. You ready to box up some flying squirrels?
Oh, definitely. Well, not flying squirrels. You had
Don't
me for
bring
a second.
some amphibians, maybe. Some of your favorite amphibians, some
salamanders.
Salamanders. We'll show them off to the crowd here.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Caleb. And like I said, I want you to come back on the show because I know you've got more and more projects to talk about as we go on, and I want you to come back on and share that with the community.
Absolutely.
And that'll be it for today. If you're listening at home and would like to comment on the show or ask any questions regarding what we've discussed today, please comment on our EBCI Cherokee Now Facebook page at facebook.com/Cherokee Now. We'll talk to you very soon. Data Dagahunya.